Last time we got 11,000 people coming in, and the channel has not actually been bringing in almost any new folks. And so I'm curious if what they want us to do is the live stream this way. Don't worry, don't have fear. I will not be doing live streams this way all the time. I'm just trying to see if we do a couple live streams this way, if it does bring in new people. Because right now, it has literally dropped to less than 4%, 3% people that are new that haven't watched my videos that are finding my videos. When normally that number was up in the 20, 25% range a month. So we're going to see for the lulls how it goes. Now, today, I just want to chat with you guys, hang out. We can look at some fish and do things like that also, of course. But I also had some fishy news for you guys, which doesn't really require us being in widescreen, as annoying as this format is for a lot of you. What happens in this format, though, is... Actually, let's take this and turn that off. Okay. What happens in this format... Boy, that's some cold light. Let's get that warmer. Oh, yeah, that's more humid. Isn't that more humid? What happens is they are basically relegating the channel in its own live stream. They kind of set it aside. But if you live stream this way now, apparently they are now putting you in with the shorts. So as people flip through the shorts, live streams come up if they're subscribed or if it's something similar. So we'll see if we get some new folks. So let's just see. But bear with me. It's not always going to be like this. I'll probably have to say this again in the stream. So how's everybody doing? Asha, we doing good? I can put us on a tripod too so we won't be so shaky. Let's see here. Do 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 do. Do, 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 do. Hope I don't press any accidental buttons. Probably shouldn't curse myself like that. Okay. Take that from there. Put that to there. And we almost are cooking with gas, guys. All right. Okay. So, how's everybody doing? We got Koro in here. We got Fish Hippie, Empire of Dirt. What's up, Jeff? Asha, Malcolm, good to see you. Welcome. And Sketty, what's up? Zilla, what's up? SC Catahulias, Stan, Artie, Cat, Ada, Donnie. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. Welcome. Muppet, 3G, what's going on? Stephen P. All right, so as I mentioned, we're streaming in this format just because last time we got 11,000 viewers, and some of those folks came over and watched the channel. So that's good because nobody's been doing that the last 3 months. So yeah. Melissa Skinner, how's it going? Did I see you had some trouble with your piranhas? Are you the same Melissa, or am I getting things confused on Facebook? Sorry if so. Sorry for mistaking you if not. But Terry, hello. Sandra, hello. What's going on, guys? How's life? How's the fish tanks? How's everything? Coro, thank you very much, buddy. I think let's see here. So yeah, on Dan's Fish, I think you get a 10% discount your first buy, or did that change? Coro, do you know different? Is that why you posted different? Because I think you get maybe nothing or 5% returning, but the first purchase you get 10%, I think. I don't know. It was. They've changed it a couple times as they like partnered with Aquarium Co-op. I think they had to scale things differently. So now I'm a little bit in the dark. I need to check back in. It's just I rarely talk to Dan one on one. He's a busy dude, so I'll text him and he'll email me back, which I'm like, what? Huh? What? Who does that? Him. He's busy. How many shrimp do I need to start breeding? I always start with 10 or 12. Yeah. So, yeah. Hey Mick, what's up? Mario, only five, Mario says. have you ever bought anything from Dan before using that code? Because if you've never like registered your email with him, I thought it was supposed to be 10. I'm gonna have to talk to him why that changed without talking to me. But any case, there's some discount there. But I am excited to tell you guys that I do have a new discount with Moonlight Aquatics. Now, Moonlight Aquatics, in all fairness, he's a young guy. He's like 25, 26. He's been keeping fish a while, but he's not a pro. I'm not gonna say he's a pro. Quasimodo, yes, indeed. I have a real broken back, and while I am 6 foot, usually I'm more down at the 5 foot level, leaning on a counter because of my sciatica pain. Um, would 5 cherry shrimp be enough to start in a 10 gallon? You could try. I mean, if you did 4 females and or 3 females and 2 males, you could start. I mean, in theory, you could start a colony with 2 shrimp, but really, to get things rolling, you need a couple shrimp having babies and no fish in there, ideally, and you'll start really getting the ball going. It's worth skipping the 6 months to a year that it's going to take to get those first couple generations up to speed, um, to get your breeders ready. And you'll then know that it's all good quality genetics if you buy from a good quality source, that's, American bred, ideally. Now, if you don't care and they're just cherry shrimp and you want like decent ones, but you're not trying to go like show grade, top of the line, then you can buy them from like Moonlight, for instance. Right now, he's got them for like 2.99, which is bonkers. And he's got like crystal shrimp for 4 or 5.99, depending on the grade and the exact type of caridina. Like blue bolts, I think, are $5 or $6. So yeah, and over there, um, Fishery, uh, I don't even know what is the code over there now. Fishery 10, I believe. But you get 10% off, and I think that's just flat, like for the future. But also over there right now, I'm gonna go to the store and film what he's got and just do a pop-up stream over there as well, because he just imported like 100 zebra plecos, and they look freaking phenomenal. I mean, they look beautiful. And he's selling them. They're 2.5 inches long, or 2 to 2.5 inches long, and they are only $129, which I've never seen them sold at a shop that price. I've seen 179 is maybe the cheapest I've seen, and that's for like inch long ones. These ones are bonkers inexpensive, and they look really good and healthy too. So he's got connections, and I don't know if I'm not going to talk down on it. He's got connections both in like Hong Kong, China, and Taiwan. Chinese background, Chinese friends and family, and he is bringing things in from sources that nobody else that I know of is able to get a hold of. And he's also, because of that, being able to bring in some really interesting, like he got tiger moray eels that are all freshwater bred, and some really interesting tank raised stuff that they just don't tank raise other places, honestly. So it's kind of interesting. And he's getting more blueberry snails, I believe, next week or the end of this week. I think it's the end of this week. Yeah. Anyways, okay, there was a question and I missed it because I'm a bad host. I'm sorry. You got an L46? Nice. Yeah, I want to get some too. I mean, in the past, I've just been scared because they were $300 fish for a long time. I mean, sometimes they were $400 back in the day. And, it was like, do you really want 6 of those? Like, can you even can you afford that? I mean, you might be able to trade. Like back in the day when I was breeding lots of different plecos, yes, I could probably trade some of the stuff I was breeding and it wouldn't come out to that. When I had my leopard frogs, plecos, and that is another one I'd like to get. If he can get leopard frogs for that, around that price, I'll pay that too. Um, oh, right on, Ada, you just set up a Daphnia pond. Cool, cool. Alex, I was wondering if you had plant recommendations for low-tech tanks. I have an established tank, soft water, but often find plants struggling. Light is really why most plants struggle, in my opinion. Now there are plenty of plants that don't need a lot of light. There are some that darn near don't need light, like Sawassertang, moss, Java ferns, stuff like that is dealing with less than 4% of the sunlight by the time it gets down to the little creeks that are in the jungles and things of Southeast Asia, Borneo, Java, um, Sumatra. And, those are pretty good. Now, the Amazonian species, they're a little more spread out because the river gets a lot wider. So they get a little more light and have a little more room to grow in the margins, kind of on the banks and submerge. So the Amazonian swords, the Eriocalans out of the Americas versus out of South America, they need kind of medium light. I mean, low light to medium light to bring out the like red hues and stuff, medium. And I think that's when they shine at their best. So the problem is that a lot of the kits and things, they just sell lights that are garbage. Like Aqueon lights, for the most part, I haven't seen one that was good enough. Even in their like third tier, like third best quality set of lights, not good enough for my taste. You can go to Home Depot and get a $12 light that is much better. That's for sure. Um, Mike, a Pisto Skittles frat. I wouldn't do it. Apistos are a bit territorial if you haven't heard. And if you had a big, big tank, surface area wise, that's really what matters because apistos aren't going to utilize the water column a whole lot. So, they may go up and down somewhat, but not much more than 6 to 10 inches really is kind of the depth they inhabit, ideally. And they'll zoom around and defend above their nest if they have one or if they have a prospective territory, but they're not going to hang out up there for no reason. It'll be out of aggression or out of a get out of my area. And sometimes like pencil fish and like hatchet fish, killifish, things like that, you can get away with, and they kind of just learn to ignore because they know they're never coming down. If you have like a 29 gallon or a 40 gallon, anything bigger than like 18 inches deep. But if you're doing like a 20 gallon or something like that, like I would not get like all male apistos. You could probably get all female apistos to work, but you would end up with pretty boring tank because they're all pretty yellow, like yellow with black stripes of some sort. Mick M is the guy to ask about apistos, but an apisto Skittles colony, just mixing a bunch of species, they actually have quite different temperaments, and I'd just be careful with that. I mean, a few might work. Like you could probably do a cockatoides and an opali or borelli, or like a cockatoides and maybe you know. I don't know, an Inca Banshee maybe, or try Lineatus maybe. I don't know. There's, the common ones that you see in the hobby, like the cockatoides variations. You could get a bunch of those, and those come in so many colors now. You could get a cockatoides yellow or red, an orange flash. They even have like blue ones and stuff. That might work okay. I'm not 100% sure. Alex, how do I kill snails and snail eggs off plants? Peroxide, bleach. Some people say you can do a bleach dip real quick, like diluted bleach, like a cap of bleach and some water. Some people say as much as like 10% of the water to 90% water, 10% bleach mix. I have had bad luck doing that. I have fried a lot of delicate plants, especially stem plants, with bleach. Even with hydrogen peroxide or salt, I've had some rough luck. I tend to look at my plants manually and just kind of look them over and look for snail eggs. If I see them, I'll take a blade that's not really sharp, like a dulled credit card kind of basically, like the edge of a credit card, and I'll just swipe off the snails' eggs. Now, if they're all over, I might just pass on that plant, quite frankly. If they're really taking over a tank, then there's something not balanced in that tank. If you're seeing like a couple clutches on every leaf of, a sword plant or something like that, that is kind of a telltale sign that, man, they're overfeeding this or it has too much waste. And it's not just that it has too much nutrients, it is in fact that it has too much waste in that water, organic debris and things like that, because plants are going to enjoy the results that are inherent from waste, which is nitrates, nitrites, and then ammonia back originally from the decomposition, as well as the CO2 and the CO that's being released from decomposition. But they're not going to benefit in a way that the snails do, because the snails need to be eating the dead detritus stuff. And because of that, an explosion of snails really indicates that the substrate and the tank in general is either overfed or has a lot of debris in it that is a little rough. Now, as far as plant dips go, I guess I would just, um, yeah, it's tough. I prefer hydrogen peroxide out of everything because hydrogen peroxide turns back into simply water, hydrogen gas, and oxygen eventually. Those three things basically is all it's going to turn into. And that makes me feel a lot better than anything with like a chlorine or, other compounds in it, or potassium permanganate is another one that's like, yeah, I might play with that a little bit, but I fear that a little bit. Methylene blue, even a couple of drops of that, I wouldn't necessarily be opposed to, but I mostly just make sure that I get my plants from a good source and try to look them over. If they're coming from nature, I have yet to really get a pest just from plants other than planaria. And planaria are a pain, but flatworms and roundworms, you can kill them literally with caffeine. But what works very well is betel nut. And betel nut or betel nut out of Southeast Asia is actually something they chew in their cheeks, humans. And it is like the fourth most common substance in the world, like behind caffeine and alcohol and nicotine. And people use it as a stimulant for like work, like it numbs pain and it allows you to work more. And at a certain point, it also causes a lot of problems with your health. Rots your teeth, causes cancer, a bunch of other things. So it's not legal here. However, for some reason, nobody seems to care that the ingredients are 100% betel nut extract in no planaria, the Japanese product. We are able to import that by the caseload, and nobody seems to care, which I don't know why, because it's scheduled 2 or 1, which is like all the way up there. So let's see here. Next question. You guys have questions today. I was gonna tell you guys some things, but let's see here. Oh, Mick, the Episto expert has chimed in. My local fish shop kept 3 different Epistos, but then in a 1,200 liter tank. 160 centimeters long with lots of branches, roots, plants. Yeah, I mean, at that point, they each have their own 20 long, essentially, side by side. Um, yeah, well, actually, more like a footprint of their own 10, I guess. Oh, no, in between the two. Um, so, yes, you could make that work if you had a big tank. But for some reason, I got the feeling the tank we're talking about is like a 20 or a 40 or something. Let's see here. Cribs, Skittles tank. Yes, cribs you can do that with. There are many taxonomists and ichthyologists that are crying right now at the idea of mixing any wild strains. But if they're all domestic strains like Nigerian red belly or anything like that, that's fine. If you mix, say, like a rock crib with an enigmatochromis, which isn't even a crib, it's not even a pelvicochromis, that's where they can hybridize and you lose track of collection points. And if you Google like Locunja, Lokunndje, I believe, or Maliwe, I've actually done videos on both of them. You can go back and look at my videos from like 7 years ago. I was really into wild cribs for a while, and I had like 6 collection points, and some were purple, some were blue, some were green and yellow, some were red and violet. I mean, they really do come in all sorts of colors. and they're very, very similar species, but they also interbreed really easily. They've just been separated by geography and basically lakes and rivers, have split them up over the eons. And some of them, have been as recent as 100,000 years ago was the last time they share a genetic relative. And others are like a couple million years. So they really have kind of evolved into their own color morphs and classes. They're not just really, it's debatable whether they're even subspecies, and that's why they reclassified all of them very recently. David Rodriguez, Marseille, oui, oui. Ah, well, bonjour, buongiorno. No, I love French viewers. Good to see you. Any Bucephalandra tips? Current, get flow on it. Do lots of water changes. I don't know what it is about the water changes, whether it's the conductivity or what. Doesn't seem to be much other than keep the organic solids down in a boost tank. Really, boost does best in CO2 also. CO2, you can pound it with high light and it's going to be okay. Bucephalandra, Bucephalandra is probably how we should be saying it, named after Alexander the Great's black horse, because it was first found in a black form, which is very unusual to see a actual jet black plant, right, with metallic sparkles. Pretty cool. But especially where it is very dark, it gets these black forms like Skeleton King, for instance, because so little light in those jungles and in like ravines and canyons in Borneo and in Sumatra, Malaysia, Indonesia. So little sunlight gets through. Sometimes it's as little as 2%, but I think 4% is the average I was just reading about. Hey guys, does anybody know microfauna can thrive in an aquasoil type aquarium? Like if I put leaves from a local pond? Yeah, you can. I always recommend never to put leaves in that aren't already dried. That's because they can have leeches, nematodes, snails, snail eggs, all sorts of stuff when they're wet. If they're crispy dry from the fall or in the summer, there are very few things other than little cysts. And cysts are like eggs, but a lot of times they go into a stage of true hibernation, suspended animation. And it's really fascinating. I've been really kind of curious about it because, different species handle it different ways, but there are things like catfish even that go down into the mud and they stay moist, but they don't take a breath more than like once a week. And it's like, how do they do that? And they actually like super pack their red blood vessels or their red blood cells, their hemoglobin, with more oxygen than we can. They essentially let the iron in their blood cells rust and oxidize fully. And then they have another enzyme that is able to re-extract and use that energy or use that oxygen as breathable oxygen out in the tissue, in the bloodstream. And so that's really incredible. But even little creatures like Daphnia and seed shrimp have versions of that. Some of them have antifreeze. Some of them have high temperature protein, like proteins that resist high temperature degradation. Uh, they're just fascinating how they survive. And a lot of them can survive, they're seeing like tardigrades and things like that are surviving 100 or more years in museum drawers. Now, it's a little debatable, like did the drawer get contaminated? Did the tardigrade jump down there from another drawer? But there are now some specimens that have pretty good case provenance that we can assume they actually are, they didn't get contaminated. They're sealed. Coro, thank you for dealing with whatever it is you dealt with there. I'm sorry that these vertical vertical live streams come with some spamming and things like that. Hey, what's going on, Kenny? What's going on, Chevy? Logan, Henry, what's up? Let's see here. So I wanted to let y'all know again that we have a new affiliate link with Moonlight Aquatics. You can go on Moonlight Aquatics, use the code FISHERY10, and get 10% off all your orders of anything living. They're not doing tanks or hardscape yet, or plants, I don't think. Maybe plants? I don't know. You'll have to try it on plants. But if you go in, if you're local too, I know a lot of you are local, give the channel a shout out and they should give you the discount. Chang and I are working together. He's a young guy, he's an ambitious guy. He's got connections back to China that no one else in the US right now that I know of, maybe a few people in LA, have. And they're bringing in things like hillstream loaches, like gobies, plecos that are not being bred in Indonesia and other places. So right now they've got zebra plecos. I think he just brought in 100 of them. He can order them 50 at a time when they're available. And they are 2.5 inches or 2 inches. The most of them are 2.5 inches long, and they look phenomenal. So we'll have to do a live stream from his store very shortly, because I want to show you some of the plecos he's got. He's got a whole lot of interesting like micro snowball plecos, and the interesting like panac panac plecos, and the a number of the Peclodia or Peclotia genus, like leopard frog and zebra and all that. Albino zebras, albino 271s or 273s. He's got some really weird stuff that I haven't actually seen before. And it's $129 for those zebra plecos on his website. He's just trying to bring them in and undercut everyone, essentially. Those things go for, I never see a zebra pleco that's 2 inches to 2.5 inches long. I mean, we're talking like yay big, fully adult markings, and easy to put weight onto it. It's probably going to be a year before it can spawn, if that. Yeah, I've never seen that before. Those are usually $250, $300 fish for a sub-adult, The 1 inch to 1.5 inches, I've seen those for 179, 169. But yeah, I don't know how he does it, to be quite honest, but you get 10% off also. Yeah, Skeleton King is cool, but $30 a piece in Canada. It is still like $80 a lot of places down here. Blue Axelrodi Rasboras, pH is a little hard. Just try to keep the, pH being hard is not quite the right statement. I get what you're saying. You have hard water, so you have minerality, but you can add leaves to that. And even though the TDS and the minerality may still be in like 200s or 300s, you can get that pH down to the high sixes, and they will really, really appreciate just anything neutral to just below neutral. I know vertical mode is so annoying and it's easy to swipe away. However, what I was saying is this isn't going to be a forever thing, but I have seen the last time we did this, that I did it completely on accident. We got 11,000 views throughout the course of the stream, and those 11,000 views, some of them came back to watch the channel. Thank you, who did. And because of that, YouTube, I think, has cracked down on recommending things outside of from shorts and stuff like that right now, because they're trying so hard to push shorts and vertical, and I don't like it either. That's not how I prefer to do things. But today I had an episode where I didn't need to show you any big widescreen stuff, and I just wanted to chat and see how everyone was doing, chat fish a bit. So I thought we'd do this one more time and see what the results were, because literally no one new has been coming to the channel. Not literally no one. 4% of my traffic has been people that haven't been on my site in the last year on my YouTube channel. And when we did the live stream, it jumped to 20% those few days surrounding it. So clearly YouTube is not recommending it unless you do that. Mama Duck, thank you so much. I'm sorry, I saw this pop up earlier and I didn't get to it. But thank you very much for that $5 super chat. It's very appreciated. Never, required, obviously, but I do appreciate that. So yeah, YouTube wants vertical. They're stupid. Well, Ghost in the Shadow Man, I thank you kindly. Yeah, we're getting more of the snails. Chang is getting more as soon as he can, man. So he is. I think his plan is this Friday to get more. Um, that's it. They got the L306 Tiger Pleco, but no pictures reached. So, that's why I'm going to go into his store and film. This is a kid who's 25. He's literally sleeping like 4 hours a night. He's trying to run an online business and his shop. He's got friends at the shop that kind of help him, and they're like kind of employees. But, he's young. He's never owned a shop before. And I think there'll be some hiccups at first. I'm not gonna lie, but his prices, he's trying to be competitive. I'm there trying to, I hate to say mentor, but I guess, try to push things in the right way. But hands down, if you want like no parasites, no problems, it's been in quarantine 90 days, go to Dan's Fish. Dan is the guy to go to if you want to like breed fish, have good quality breed stock. You're gonna pay double or more from what you might pay from like Chang, but you're gonna know it's really solid. It's been observed, it's been treated by a an ichthyologist vet, in and fed really good food. Now Chang is feeding like bloodworms and extreme stuff like that. Good food. And doing water changes and all that, which is great. But he's just hasn't been importing for a super long time. He's done it for a couple years on his own, and now he's got the shop, and so there's a lot of fish that he's never had before. He's asking friends in our community here in Seattle, like, what is that? What is this fish, and how do we take care of it? And some of it is coming down to what I'm learning from Dan's Fish and from biologists and papers that I've been reading lately is it is so incredibly important to when something comes from the wild that is benthic or that is a detrivore. Sorry about those beeps. I'll turn them off. Um, they are loaded with parasites. And in the pet industry, traditionally, they will get rid of most of the ones that spread, but the ones that are endemic to those species, a lot of times those stay lodged in. They are at home in those fish, and they're not coming out unless you near kill the fish, honestly, like with meds. And so because of that, you have to treat them like 3 or 4 rounds, like a full 2 months or more. And Dan is the kind of guy who's going to do that and take stool samples and look at them under the slides. And if one passes away, examine its entire belly contents and do bacterial cultures. I mean, he's doing next level stuff. Dan is. However, that's not going on at Chang's place. That's not going on at Aquarium Co-op. That's not going on. That's not going on anywhere right now, really, other than that. Maybe predatory fins. Some of the high end places that sell like thousands of dollar fish, they can do it. Um, can Dan's Fish or Moonlight get the undescribed neon tetra? I highly doubt it. Heiko can't even get it right now, other than the people in Germany who have it. Um, it's not 100% certain that there is a newly described one, but Heiko thinks so. So maybe there is. Nancy B in Tennessee, I did see you. Thank you so much for 20 months of support. If you guys want to be channel members, only $1.99. You get those 200 extra audio episodes that are anywhere from, I say 5 minutes, but let's be serious. They're all like more like 10 minutes to 20 minutes. So you get those episodes, plus you get and they're all in, they're videos, but they're designed for audio. So you can listen to them as a podcast, and you get anything that I post to members, which I try to do, every now and then, maybe a couple times a month. If I see a good sale, or if I know that Chang got in some super rare, like moray eels or something, I'll be sharing that with you guys. or if Dan has a sale, which never happens. And Chang is not going to do sales either. He doesn't like that. Neither one of them like the ethics or the optics of how that is, where people wait until you have a sale and then they buy. And a lot of times the fish come in overcrowded because the store is overstocking for the sale and the people are overstocking at home and all the fish kind of get ordered at the same time in a rush. Um, so they are both trying to do the thing where it's like, let's pick a sustainable price that's the same as if we were having a sale averaged out all year, and let's operate from there. And I respect that. I really see that now. As much as I love a good sale, and I will still shout it out. Um, do you know anything about masterfish in Germany? I know of them. I don't know a whole lot about any of that. Let's see here. Stephen P's in here. Aquatic Moose, do you keep any terrariums? Just getting back into them. They're like fish on lands. Yeah, fish tank on land. I don't right now. I used to as a kid and a teenager. I had a bunch with frogs and snakes. Wife won't allow snakes, and that's okay. I'll let her draw the line there. My neighbor's got a snake. He's got a couple snakes. He's got a 55-gallon full of eels and rope fish and other stuff, and he just got my old 55 that my wife said no to. Wife said, no, you've got enough 55s, which I have one. And she's like, that's too big. No, no, no. And I just was told also that my mom, of all people, who I never thought that I'd see this coming, because she cursed the day that I ever got my first aquarium when I was like 6 or 7. She used to take soap and water, Dawn dish soap, and she's like, well, they use it on ducks. It's safe. Like during the Alaska Valdez oil spill is like the time I'm talking about, like late 80s, early 90s era. And she would scrub down my fish tank while the fish were all in a bucket or bowl next to the counter. And she'd scoop out the fish, put them in dechlorinated tap water, and then she would literally scrub the tank with soap, wring out the filter, put a new filter slide pad in for hang off the back, and an air stone. And that was a couple times a month, 2 times a month maybe. So literally those tanks never cycled probably. They probably never cycled. I remember she'd wash the gravel in a colander and she's like, this is so much work. Why does anyone keep fish? And looking back on it, I'm like, well, we didn't know. We had terrible advice at the local pet store, and my mom didn't know any better. We could have gotten a book, but that was work. That's the equivalent of going to like the fifth page on Google these days. I mean, come on now. But yes, I really do like the bioactive terrariums. I kind of would like to breed springtails and like exotic colored springtails and like pill bugs and stuff. I think that would be cool. Why does it look like this? Because I dislike all of you and I'm punishing you as viewers. No. YouTube is pushing this new skinny thing because Instagram and TikTok do it, so it must be the cool thing to do. If TikTok jumped off a bridge, so would YouTube. Um, so for live streams, they're trying to push it. Now today, I didn't have a whole lot to say that I need or show that was like, hey, check out these fish widescreen style. I just wanted to chat with you guys, answer questions, go through things like that. You go 13 pages deep, Dave. Respect. Can you spell candy only 2 letters? I am confused. Oh, C and Y. Oh, I like that. That's a nice little riddle. CAND and Y, candy. People don't even read up before they have a baby or dog, let alone a fish. Yeah, that's very true, sadly. Where's my like little hat? This hat it turns itself around throughout the day. Um, and I like the little drunken mouse in the martini. So I wanna I haven't drank for 16 years, but I like to rep the local bars still. Um, is it possible to stop Buenos Aires tetras from eating plants? Find a food that they really like and feed them 3 or 4 times a day. Get an auto feeder, feed them 6 times a day. They won't eat plants if they have something better to eat. It may need to be an omnivorous pellet, but yeah, I mean, that's really the best thing I can say. Is 75 a good temperature for Bosemani and Congo tetras? Dojo loaches don't give a damn. Dojo loaches will live in a boot uh, in Maine or in Kenya. It doesn't matter. Those things are bulletproof. They can freeze. They can solidly freeze dojo loaches. I have a video on how they do that. Medaka can also do that for a short time, but they'll die from asphyxiation is the thing that kills them, not the cold, which is amazing. And Similis, I would say, Henry. But I think that oh, it's hard to read this format. Yes, Discordia. I think it is. Nobody likes it. Nobody likes this format other than YouTube. Um, Hugo the Goat. Hello. Great video on father fish tanks. He said you don't clean the inside of your tank. What's your take on it? I do clean a little bit. It depends on what I'm keeping though. If I'm breeding like angelfish, you bet I'm gonna clean the hell out of that tank. I'm gonna do water changes all the time for the babies. I'm gonna siphon it. If I'm doing a nature tank that I want like low maintenance, I'm traveling, I'm talking, I'm taking pictures and catching fish out in the wild when I'm physically up to it. I mean, yeah, I don't like being straddled with a lot of maintenance in the fish room for those reasons and also for health reasons. Like I have a hard time lifting things now. I've got five herniations in my back and two broken vertebrae that are never going to heal all the way. So I limp really bad, and I permanently just don't have feeling in my right leg below the knee. And so it's really hard. Like I can't even step up on a step stool because I can't take that second step. My leg's like, I don't know what's going on, and it just buckles. So I've worked with physical therapy for a couple of years now on that, and it's just not getting better. But yeah, because of that, I am essentially really drawn to keeping tanks that I only need to do water evaporation top offs on. And I think that you can do a lot more than the hobby would have led you to believe. But if you are raising any sort of fish in numbers, any sort of fish that eats a lot of high protein, it's a predatory fish and is a predatory fish, and it is something that is going to poop a lot too with a fast metabolism. That is going to raise your nitrates, your ammonia. Father fish doesn't care about nitrates. And in a nano tank, I never have problems with nitrates. And by nano, that's a loose term. I might be keeping cribs or apistos and a bunch of rasboras or, some little tetras. And I consider that all nano. Anything over maybe 2.5 inches, that's where I don't really consider it a nano style tank anymore. But that's where, yeah, I start to siphon off when plants lose their leaves, I'll suck it up. Any junk that's building up in the filter, I will rinse that out if there's a filter. But some of my tanks don't even have filters, and it just depends on what species they're, what kind of cleanup crew I have in there. Do I have snails that like if I've got ram's horn snails, Malaysian trumpet snails, and neurites, they will dang near eat everything, especially at night. They'll dang near eat everything that my fish miss. Add some cories or an eel or a loach. They'll take care of the rest. The loach will eat some of the baby snails. I mean, you darn near have an ecosystem. Corey from Aquarium Co-op had an awesome controversial video on small tanks being easier. I loved it. Hey, funny thing you asked, do they sell aquariums at Aquarium Co-op? Well, I happen to be positioned right next to Aquarium Co-op just by dumb luck. I have grown up in the same town as Corey, more or less, same area, and I just got one of their tanks, and we're gonna see how it is. I needed a small tank, and he had a 4-gallon Good price, 29 bucks. I mean, I can't argue with that for a tank with a lid. And it's glass, low iron glass. But yeah, I got an air pump. Well, I had an air pump. Then I got one of his hang off the back filters and or not hang off the back filter, sorry, sponge filter with the lift tube. And so that should be all I need, really. I'll put the air stone in the filter if I can. But then it comes with like a mat and yeah. Now, I don't ever get sent stuff for free from them. We have, I don't know, maybe not the best relationship. I don't know why. I don't have any love lost for the guy. Early on, when we were both smaller YouTuber, and he was a bigger YouTuber, but nothing like he was smaller than I am right now. Back when I'm talking about, um, and we kind of were like, I don't know, competition in a small, two fish in a small pond. I think for his taste, and it was his livelihood. Whereas I was this guy who was streaming in my house, walking around in my boxers, like not taking the channel as seriously by far. Um, and that was like 8 years ago is when the channel started now. And 7 years ago, 6 years ago, I didn't really take this channel super seriously till about 5 years ago. I've always took the science to be interesting, but I was a lot more open with not making money and just, having it be a community thing. And now I want to do both. Now, when it gets to a point where you're like, oh, like all together between me breeding fish, breeding plants and selling plants, consulting people and setting up tanks, aquascaping, giving lectures and flying out to talk and then collecting wild fish and photographing, helping write articles, things like that. Um, Altogether, making a couple $1,000s a month off of it, it gets to a point where you're like, oh, this is my job, this is my full-time job. And it's hard because then you get into that cycle of like, I need a little more money. Like I just need to make 3 grand this month to pay the mortgage. And then hopefully that's like a training wheel phase of the channel. It's just I've been kind of stuck in that like under 100K subscriber size for a long time. And I could do more sensational or shocking or dramatic videos, I'm sure, and get more people scrolling through. But I want people that are coming to all the live streams, like you beautiful, wonderful people in the community. I love you guys so much. I see the same names in the chat all the time, and that really moves me. Or names that I saw years ago that stopped back by. That matters more to me than any of the other stuff right now. Okay, so I saw a super chat, and I don't want to miss the super duper chat. Man, in this mode, the text is a little better for me, but still pretty darn bad. Leah, thank you so much, or Leah, but thank you so much for the $9.99 super chat. Really, again, that's above and beyond, but it will go to a good use. My next goal with memberships and super chats and all that kind of stuff is to go to getting B-roll. Subscribing to a service where I can get B-roll for editing. And some of them, like Alame or PhotoBucket or Shutterstock, some of them are pretty good, and they're a couple $100, but there are a couple that are like above the rest. There is there's two, and I'm totally spacing on the biggest one. But I was on their site and I looked for like cockatoides apisto spawning, and they had 6 videos in 4K. So that's something where I would love to have that at my disposal, because as it is now, I go running around like a chicken with my head chopped off. I go to every shop or friend's house that I know, trying to get the species, filmed so that I have a 30-second clip of something that I'm mentioning in passing. So it'd be great if I could use that without getting my channel erased, as they do with copyright stuff. Thank you, Nolan. We don't need another fish drama queen. Alex, stay as you are. Keep bringing the clever stuff to us all. Hey, I'll be here as long as you are. Thank you very kindly. Thank you very kindly. I did want to tell you guys Um, I did want to tell you guys some of the interesting uh, research that just came out. You guys ready for me to talk at you a little bit? Um, you know what? The stream just stopped scrolling for me, so I wonder what the heck's going on. Yeah, Spotify, I believe, has my podcasts on it, so it has the audio from YouTube on it, I believe. Um, Mike, thank you, buddy. Gary the fish was cut in half by a 2-year-old. You. Rough, rough. Hugo, we got it though. Um, Rap to him, Alex. Oh man, I don't know if I'm in a rappy mood today. Oh, I gotta be careful how I say that. Okay. I don't know if I'm in a rappy mood, but at least I'm not in a crappy mood. I got an attitude because I'm talking, dude, to all of you from the near and far to the street to cars. I got more than bars. I got fish. I got eels. No, I don't. Well, I got two. I got eels. I got bars. I got fish. I got shrimp. Everybody look at me. No, I don't got it today. I need to, I don't the problem is I just started going without any any beat in my head. Uh Potato bird, hello, or patu bird. Man, I always read that as potato. I am so sorry. Um you deal and buy a bunch from Dan and others on eBay, right on. Can pearl cichlids work with starry night cichlids? I don't know that one. You know who would though? Kenny from Danikin Aquatics. That dude has had both those, I believe. Definitely the starry night cichlids. They're beautiful. I've never had the privilege of our house is 900 square feet. I already took over the only spare bedroom, our second bedroom. We have one bathroom, by the way. And we have plumbing that needs replacing. We had a roof that we just replaced for 15 grand. And I got teeth that need replacing. I had two bones in my spine that needed wiring and fusing. So this last 5 years has just been like, just write me the bill and don't say anything. Just put it in my pocket, and I'll deal with it later. And finally, later has come. I'm dealing with all these bills, and it's lots of fun. But I've never had the size. I never had the size of a dwelling or a room where I could really keep anything. I mean, I could keep 120-gallon tank, and that's it, and maybe like a couple shrimp tanks. But I don't want to do that. Aquatic Moose, Alex had two bones to pick with us. What? I got my bones are good. Plain Bubble, what's going on? Where are you from? Huh? Um, I am from Seattle. I'm in Seattle. Ah, yeah, Seattle. Man, this light in here right now makes it so my any moisture on my lip looks like I'm drooling. Please don't rap again. Yeah, yeah. I hear you. You better pay me. If you pay me, I won't rap again. Can you show a close-up of the silicone job on the co-op tank? Yeah, it's a weird tank. I will do a review of it where it's in HD, at least 1080p. A lot of people have messaged me around the world that watch, because only 50% of y'all watching are in the US, which I pride myself on because I love that we have people from all over the world chiming in on their experiences and what's native to them fish-wise and stuff. But yeah, I happen to live next to Aquarium Co-op. I'm less than 5 miles down the road from their flagship store. And I will do a full video on this, but like I said, it probably won't be 4K. I might get to 4K in the future, especially if I have like 4K quality, like stuff that merits it. But honestly, there's a lot of people who say those videos don't load for us out in Hyperbad or whatever. Our grid won't support it, and on our phones or on our uh, whatever. Um, so yeah, my musical numbers are integral to the show. They don't have to be rap. but they do have to be terrible. So what's interesting is they used a curved glass singular piece for the front. I don't know how I feel about that. So far, the glass, I've had this for a day, and even just the oils on a hand that's been washed show up pretty brutally on this thing. Um, Pretty interesting. Bring the boxer shorts back. How do you know I'm not wearing boxer shorts only right now? But what it does include, and it was only 29 bucks. Their first gallon, I think, is like 20. So I was told not to film in there, and I did. So I'm gonna make a video, and I don't know if I'm gonna get yelled at, but the guy working was like, "Don't film," whereas I've been told I could film by other people, including the manager. Um, Maybe I should just write Corey and be like, "Hey, can I review your tank?" There's nothing to write home about that's like, "Oh my gosh, it's amazing," or "Oh my gosh, it's terrible." I mean, I think it's a pretty good deal if you don't have to pay shipping. Like if you live in an area or if it's at your local store, if they can get that pallet rate on shipping with all the other aquarium co-op, supplies they're getting, then yeah, I guess it's a thing. And the round corners, they're rounded enough that they still are pretty square. I mean, they're still pretty squared off. So there is a distortion that occurs, but it's not like a bow front where it just screws up your photos, right? It's not like that. So that's okay. But what I'm going to keep in here is true nano fish. So I've got some Medaka mediculus, whatever. I'm not even pronounce it. They go by miniature Medaka. They're wild and they're from the Mekong River Delta and they only get to a half inch full grown. Also some yellow polka dot rasboras, which are the smallest of the true rasboras. Um, those two will be living in here and I'm going to try to spawn them. But I want to do a little aquascape. Some sort of aquascape. I don't know if it'll be a biotope or what, but there's going to be something in there. So there'll be a video of that coming up soon. Thank you, Chevy. I appreciate that. Yeah, if you want to pay me on PayPal, then YouTube doesn't take a third of it, and then taxes take another third. Well, taxes will still take a third, but yeah. Jack Barlow, thank you so much, though, for that super chat, buddy. I really do appreciate that. Again, you don't need to, but I'm not going to stop you. That's very kind of you. Thank you, buddy. Nancy B in Tennessee, Alex and Stephen P rap battle. That Nancy B in Tennessee, Stephen P and me. Yeah, let's do it. I didn't even. I told you. I just said I wasn't gonna rap, but yeah. Dan's got two Phantom Blue plecos, 119. Small but hard. Yeah, I love Phantom Blue plecos. I don't think anybody's figured out how to breed them yet in captivity, so they're kind of an interesting one. Rap battle preview on pay-per-view. Yeah, I was kind of wondering how people have been like, "Oh my gosh, you hear that Joey's gonna be boxing?" Like, oh man, I don't want my life or channel to be defined by that Joey stream. Like, there was a lot going on behind the scenes. He threatened me and my wife. He threatened me with legal action. Then he got my channel deleted. And I never even posted the live stream. After our whole argument at the end, I didn't post it. He got my channel deleted. And then it wasn't until the day I got my channel back through an appeal, thanks to, I think, Corey. But literally, I had no recourse. And then I hit up a couple people that could get in contact with bigger YouTubers. And ta-da, they saw that he copyright claimed my channel. And you can't do that. You can't copyright claim someone else's content. In fact, you're supposed to get kicked off YouTube for doing that. And he's done it to other people too. But with a following over 1 million, they literally take your report and just assume it's correct with a channel that's smaller. At the time, I think I had like 30,000 or 20,000 subscribers, and yeah, so kind of crazy on there. But any case, the boxing thing, I don't mind boxing. I am not also. Is he trying to divide the community against co-op? Yes. He is. He's trying to make any drama he can. You know, the other thing is, so when we had our little drama, he hung up. He knew he was live the whole time. He had the same screen I did, and he's claiming, I didn't know I was live. I thought it was just two guys chatting. And he wrote in the court papers, because I got served during COVID, right during, the early part of COVID, like a couple months, like summer of COVID. Uh, I got served at my door, and I'm like, what's this crap? And, he had said he would, and I didn't think he was serious. But basically, it got thrown out right away because he had nothing to stand on when we were. Palo Alto Court handles it. And actually, with copyright and DVA takedowns, like, what do they call them? DV. Anyways, copyright takedowns. When you actually sue someone like that, it's a big deal in the US. It's not as big of a deal in Canada or Europe, but in the US, greetings from Palestine. You in the West Bank, I would assume. If you are in Gaza, that is insanity. But welcome. DMCA, yeah, DMCA takedown. And he claimed it on my live stream, saying that even though it was listed as unlisted at the time, but what happened is 1,000 people filtered into that stream live by the point that we were arguing, and people took screenshots and video. And I don't care. I didn't copyright claim anyone for having commentary or replaying it, but I did feel like after a while, even though I disliked the guy quite a bit at the time, and he threatened. He said, this is what he said. And he's dumb because he thought he could put it on delete every 30 seconds on Instagram Messenger and that like then I wouldn't have it. But yeah, you can take screenshots of that still, bro. But he said like, hey, when I was younger, I got put in jail for attempted murder. Don't think I couldn't finish the job, bro. You and your blankety blank wife better blankety blank blank blank. Then, like an hour later, because I didn't respond to him ever after that, he just starts going, bro, talk to me. Like, how can we fix this? I'm sure we can fix this. I'll pay you 5 grand. I'll fly you out here. Let's just say it was a joke. We can smooth it over. I'll have you on my podcast and my other channel, and we'll blow your channel up. I will make you famous. And I don't answer him. An hour later, he goes back to, I'm gonna destroy your channel. I'm gonna ruin your channel. You will never see the light of day. Blah blah blah. I can go to court over and over again. You have no idea how much money I have. It was sad, man. The guy needs some help, or did at that point. I don't know how he's been since then, but it wouldn't surprise me if he raised like something like 300 or $400,000 to do a project up in Canada, and then he said he got scammed and lost the money. I'm sorry, he didn't seem like a super scammable guy to me. But he's done a couple things where he's asked for a lot of money and not delivered, and I also am a little worried. Savage Kitty, you've been here before. I know you have. Hello and welcome. But I know that, and Potato Bird, thank you, or Patu Bird, god dang, thank you very much for the super chat. Your bird picture makes me so happy. I don't know why I still think of potato whenever I try to say the name. But yeah, my voice and my eyes, it's because I'm actually fat Leonardo DiCaprio. That's what I've decided. Like when he went through his first fat phase, that's me. Like when he was like 30 and he kind of was getting seen as like an adult actor and everyone was like, oh man, he's fat. He's not a heartthrob anymore. That might be why you think you've seen me before. Yeah, I just hope that with these boxing charity event things, that the money is totally transparent for real, and that I would love it if they had to test and show that they weren't on performance enhancers. Like not to say anything, but steroid and the white powder are a little known to give you an advantage. And I would love to see proof from an impartial third party that none of that was going on. Anyways, let's I don't want to keep going with the negativity, but I did want to address the whole boxing thing because, I just feel weird about it. Like Lucas has been someone who's, I've gone and, visited Lucas and seen his fish room a couple times now in Florida. That's all the way across the country for me. We've been friends for like 8 years. And he kind of like didn't really say hello or anything when a bunch of us came into his stream last week. And I was like, that's kind of weird. Why isn't he saying hi to us? And then I was like, oh, Joey's in here and he's selling pay-per-view tickets for Joey and himself. And more power to him if he wants to box and all that. But I just thought that was kind of weird. Maybe it wasn't intentional. I shouldn't put out that negative vibe. Anyways, it's all gravy. Let's continue. Now, I am feeling good today. And, with me, it's like a hit or miss. That's not something I take for granted. Um, I take every day that I can get out of bed, that I can think clearly, as like a victory, as something that, whether it's God or my fish or, my wife, I gotta thank someone for it, right? I'll thank you guys for it right now. Um, but yeah, it's I think the other thing is like there's going to be all this drama surrounding that event, maybe some other events, but I think that we could do an event like Aquarium Co-op specifically. He's done so much to give back to the community over the years too, but we could do an event just to be good to the community and nobody has to get beat up. I mean, if you want to box, that's fine. I don't care. Um, but as someone with traumatic brain injury, as somebody who had a lifestyle years ago where I got in a lot of fights, where violence was every day in my life, um, I, I don't really have a draw to it personally. So yeah. Um, So I had something I was gonna tell you guys, and it's a three-part yes, steroid test sponsored by API Master Test Kit. They do have gas chromatograph mass spectrometer tests there that will do the plasma gas, the spectrum analysis. So that would be hilarious if they could like prove like nobody's got any alcohol or painkillers or anything in their system for it. But I think we need to do something then. I think we need to do something this year for the community as a whole, like tanks for teachers, some program like that. I would really love, I think something where we could get kids, tanks into another program that I've been working on for a long time is trying to get into the local prisons. I want to bring aquaculture, so raising tilapia and things like that, as well as maybe starting out with breeding bettas to the local low security prison. They've done it in other places, and just like with cats or dogs, when they bring them in, it is absolutely a 180 change in the behavior because people want to be able to have their privilege to go spend time with nature. A lot of those places, you have like no, you have like no contact with nature. You can see the sky through a chain link fence. And mods, a kitty needs to be booted for that. I didn't see what was said. Um, my main problem, people can call me whatever they want. I don't have a problem with that. I don't want them talking about other people in the community. Mods, you get that? They can say whatever the heck they want about me. I got a tough skin, but no hate speech towards anyone in this community. Everybody is welcome at this channel. And, I grew up around, for instance, the trans community. My mom was a runway makeup artist for Christian Dior. And so as a little kid, I traveled to LA, I traveled to New York, I traveled to Miami, and drag queens were who babysat me while my mom was out doing, well, she was also Sharon Stone's personal makeup assistant. You'd think our family would have some money from that, but she got paid crap. Like we were just traveling all the time, and it was my mom and I when I was young, when I was like 5 to 12-ish. But I mean, yeah, we had these big, diva drag queens and like fashion designers and things. I mean, people that now are on Project Runway. My mom knows like all those folks that have been around since the 80s. Which isn't that many really, I guess I should say, that survived and that are still around. But regardless, long story short, I have that side. I also have my dad's side of the family that is hunting and good old boys living in East Texas in the swamps, and they don't pay their taxes and they don't have electricity or uh, one of my great uncles literally sends back uh, his veteran and his what do you call it? His Medicaid or Medicare check. And I'm like, they're just gonna put that back in your account, like in some floating account or whatever. And he's like, I don't care. I don't need no help from the government. He's just this like stubborn, crotchety, like 90-some-year-old man. Still plants his plants. He has a well that he pumps the water out of manually. Doesn't have electricity. Very few people like that anymore. But yes, I grew up with that side of the family. And 30 years ago, there was still quite a bit of that in that part of the country. Um, Stan, that's fine. I just, Joey's had enough issues, incidents, and stuff that I wouldn't have linked up with him. That's my criticism of that. I think if LRB, I saw his workout stuff there long before any of this was announced. But when someone buys you 200 memberships, just like nothing right there, and there's more going on. I can definitely assume, they got to be communicating about all of this, and I don't like what doesn't get shown to the crowd. I don't think he's trying to do something by showing nature and the real power of just letting an aquarium be run by natural bacterium and fungi and archaea and stuff, and going filterless, you know, no loud pumps or anything in his room anymore. And it's really different, and it just doesn't make sense to me to then team up with like the loudest, like, I mean, like Dustin's Fish Tanks, that channel's fine. It used to be around, but it was one of those like, hey, what's going on? Woo! Like, really animated, and probably would have done great on TikTok in retrospect if he'd come up on TikTok. But there is a direct channel to radicalism on this platform. And let me talk about that, because I was actually thinking about doing a standalone episode about this, because it's something that came up on a channel that I watch archaeology, stuff about archaeology on. And essentially, this hobby, you would assume that if you're breeding guppies, line breeding guppies, and selecting traits that you want, that you would probably believe in evolution, right? I mean, maybe God, oh, there goes the light, guys. Maybe God triggered evolution, and his unseeing hand, or his seeing hand is moving all the little cells in the body. I don't know. I can't tell you that. But regardless of your thoughts, but you can't say you don't believe in any sort of evolution, because the Earth's only 6,000 years old, and be breeding guppies without using things that were specifically designed by people who are saying everything to the contrary. So it shocks me that I meet so many fish breeders that are so anti-science or so anti-authoritarian. And it didn't get any better with all the shutdowns and the fact that we did get lied to, we did get misled, we did get also just told stuff that they didn't know and they just wanted to give people an answer. And it's really hard to know what is going on. So for instance, I'm going to get this stream demonetized right now. Uh, they found out that if you decide to light up tobacco, that you will obviously increase your chances of cancer. If you are using up to 20 a day, a whole pack a day, from the age of 15 to 35, as long as you quit at 35, you will not have any higher risk of lung cancer or any other things. Now, when they found this out in the 1960s, they also found out that every year over 35 exponentially gets worse on what it does to you and your health and your risk of cancer. So you better quit at 35. And obviously, this is not a one-to-one comparison. There are some people that it's still going to impact. 35 is not some magical number. But as far as data goes, that's where the curve shows that if they didn't quit by that point, cancer rates get astronomical. And so it's science has to grapple with this thing, which is what do we want people to know? And sometimes scientists or the scientific community, they're like, well, don't tell people that they can have tobacco until they're 35. Like everyone's going to do it and then they won't be able to quit because it's so addictive. So don't tell them that. Don't tell them that piece. And then it becomes, oh, there's a conspiracy not to tell us about, the truth of tobacco and being able to use it till you're 35. And it's like, maybe there really is a conspiracy on some things like that. But it's like, where is it coming from? And who should get to decide what gets censored? And the idea is that, the best idea in the idea of the free market of ideas on the internet and whatnot should win. The person with the evidence, the person with the most logical, most backed up theory should win. But that's not what happens. Nobody wants to sit and go through the sources, the citations, the research, vetting people. I mean, there's so many people on here, even in the fish community, that have doctor in front of their name. I've come across 5 or 6 now that I cannot find PhDs or dissertations or anything published for in anything from ecology, biology, anything like that. And so it's just kind of like crazy, whether it's ancient aliens and the pyramids, or whether it's don't believe science, don't believe academia, they're an elitist organization that's out to get you. I can tell you, academia is not organized, let alone does the physics department know what the history department's doing? No, the history department doesn't know what the history department's doing. And so I think that it's not talked about a lot, but this anti-scientific, anti-academic, anti-education line that's gone through our culture, it's happened on the right and the left. You got people on the left that are like, oh, just charge your crystals in the moonlight and you'll be gravy. And I'm not trying to disparage if you have beliefs or things and you're like, well, for me it works. Great if it's not harming anybody. But if you have cancer, or more importantly, if someone else has cancer and you tell them rub a crystal on your face because I think it works, it worked for this one person one time, so says this guy, that's not cool. That's damaging, and that's the liberal side of it that you see a lot of times, or the left-wing side in America. But I mean, there's also the whole, oh, what do they know? They're all hiding it from us. They're all part of the Illuminati kind of thing. And if you go far enough on the left or the right, you come back around and you end up with people who don't want a government, don't want to be told what to do, want to stockpile weapons, and want to live out in the woods, probably with multiple wives. And it boggles my mind. They end up in the same place. So that is radicalism. That is not left or right. It is a disbelief in the system. And there's good reasons not to trust, quote unquote, the system. There are flaws in the system, but we need to understand what they are, where they come out, and where they express themselves so that we can target them and so that we can understand what is actually, correct versus what's not correct. And with fish, there's no grand conspiracy. Uh, um, there is there's no grand conspiracy going on for much. What is going on, I must say, is that we do have scientists, some of them I know, that want to get things like the chili rasbora, for instance, listed as, for instance, an endangered species. Should they be? Probably, honestly, right now. Will it destroy their collection for the hobby? Yes. Can we breed them in the hobby? Yes. So that's not a big deal. But when you get to things like, for instance, should we collect from Sulawesi? There's only one island of Sulawesi. There's only one lake that has 64 species of freshwater shrimp. You can only collect so many of them. Now, I will do a video on it soon. I've been talking with some folks in the Netherlands and a woman who is in charge, as well as Chris Lukoff, the Shrimp King, talking about the lake chain, for lack of a better term, lake system on the island of Sulawesi, Indonesia, that people have let flower horns go in this lake that was pristine until the 80s or 90s. It had been saved from much devastation, destruction, or pollution. Now we're seeing more pollution. Now we're seeing more problems. But these flower horn cichlids, which are like a hybrid that's already like has some unknown, like what's it going to eat? Is it going to eat meat? Is it going to eat plants? Is it going to eat shrimp? They have seen now that there are no shrimp basking in whole sections of the lake, and they need to get rid of those fish, but how do you do it? So hopefully she'll be coming on the show soon. Let's see here. Flower horn aren't even fish. Yeah. I also missed the super chat. And yes, tobacco is very misunderstood. I agree. It's a balance between the informed consent versus giving an entire college career's worth of data. I am in the vet field and deal with this constantly. Yeah, totally. I agree, Chesney. I agree. Thank you very much, though, for the super chat. That is appreciated. I will use it to buy access to JSTOR and other academic sites. I feel like walking, guys. Can we walk? I know it makes things a little shaky. Shaky. But I gotta get to the point in this episode. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling my yeets. Is that a thing? My roots, I'm sowing my wild oats. That's not what I'm doing. I think I'd get in trouble for doing that on this channel. But for those of you who did order plant packs on the members, we put together 10 and I let 12 people squeeze in. And then people didn't pay really on time, or they said that they couldn't find me on PayPal. Just a number of things happened. But we're all good now. So literally now all is on a spreadsheet so that I can put it together. So if you're one of those folks, tonight is the night that I will be cutting and sending stuff out. If not all of it goes out tomorrow, it'll be the next day. Sorry that it took a week. For the papers to research, Dave's aquarium thoughts. I appreciate that, brother. Thank you. Really do. Rianesh, hello. How are you? Good morning. Yeah, it's afternoon here. Are you over in India? How are you doing? Or Bangladesh or something? Probably India with that name, I would guess. I see French. Okay. So there is new science. Guys, pardon me if I don't respond to chat for a couple minutes. I gotta show you something cool. So ignore the mess over here is the thing I always say. So we're going to use this because it's the only paper I have because I am that ghetto. Okay, so a new research paper came out. And if you guys know what sound is a wave. And groups of fish make sound when their tails move back and forth. It is nothing more than vibrations. It is nothing more than vibrations, and as they spread out, they get bigger and bigger and weaker, and they move energy in between each ones. The amount of energy, amplitude, the frequency is the frequency or the distance between the waves. And have you ever wondered how noise canceling headphones worked? I know this doesn't sound like it's about fish, Alex. Well, it is. So they were studying schools of fish recently, danios, as well as mormyrids, which those are very different fish, and tetras. And they watched them schooling, and when there are one or two, they see this sound profile coming from the water. When there are more than three, they start to see this. Now, what is that? Is that DNA? No. That is canceling out the peaks and the valleys so that they average, somewhere in here. And that is destructive interference is what that's called. It is noise canceling. And what this paper that came out on Friday says is that fish in groups of 7 or more create this at the effect of 80% in small characins, or characins, however you want to say it. So little tetras and stuff. So when a tetra is alone, it may give off a sound. Let's just make something up. A sound, we're going to make up an intensity too, because the decibels and the frequency and all that doesn't really transfer super well underwater and for what we're doing. So we're going to make up a unit. We're going to say that 1 tetra makes 5. It makes 5 noise units. And 2 tetras make 10. And 3 make 5. What? And 7 make 4. What? So they were like, what in the heck is going on? They tuned acoustic microphones and sensors to the way that fish are set up, predatory fish like Oscars and wolf cichlids. And they basically found that this noise cancellation is going on with the rhythm of the fins. Now, what also happens is this cancels out turbulence in the water and allows them to swim as a group much easier because you've got a school and they kind of use, if you look at schools, a lot of times they'll have a few more towards the front. And I've talked about this in other videos where why do fish school or how do fish school? And there's actually a link in that video on the channel and you can play with it. You can play with variables of how close they are to one another, how fast they move. And there's basically a set of 3 rules in most fish species that determine how they form these super complex thousands of fish schools. And it's all about if there's a predator, run. If there is food, go towards it. These basic ground rules for all the time. And then when schooling, if you sense pressure to your left, move to your right. So if you feel these guys pushing you, they're getting closer, go to your right. And then the other rule is don't get closer to anybody unless you are in danger. And by doing this, by this one simple rule or 2 simple rules, you get a group that moves together. Also, another rule is anybody can take the lead, but they need to give room and get at least ahead of a couple body lengths before doing so that it's clear that they're in the lead. And they move together and they kind of break the water like the bow of a boat with a wave that kind of ripples out and back, and they move through it. There's there's some turbulence here. There's kind of some flows that do this back in here and back right in here. I know I should be using different color pen for that, but the fish are going, and this is their signature, right? Well, their sound signature, they're putting off sound too. Let's use a different color for that. Their sound signature is coming off, and it's like this, right? From a single fish. But if you got a group, we know that it's canceled out. Well, this is coming out in a big wall of this, but it doesn't get any louder for the predatory fish. In fact, the predatory fish out here, there's a super good fish. He's got teeth. The predatory fish out here, he's listening, and he hears maybe the equivalent of less fish than when there's just two that are splashing and making chaos over here. This group can move silently, especially in very still water, like black water or muddy water where they can't be seen. They can trick those fish into then hearing this group. And a school of fish is more quiet than a single fish, which is really weird from a physicist or physics standpoint. And that is what they're studying it for things like radar and sonar and stealth technology. It's kind of interesting. Yeah, it's like how birds flock to break air resistance, or how if you pull up right behind a semi truck, you can draft in their wake, kind of. It's kind of like that. And they are feeling the vibrations with their lateral line. That is important to remember. I agree. Divide by 0. But what it does is it makes this one grouping, if they stay close enough, it makes them appear to be a fairly silent, large, singular thing. So this fish is thinking, unless it can see them, which a lot of predatory fish have their eyes more towards the center of so that they can see binocular vision. And they also have the ability with their sensory organs to see a lot better than the other fish a lot of times. So they're going to rely on sight. So when they're in murky water or shallow water with plants, and this is cruising through, it really confuses them. Now, their eyes, there's also iridophores on fish, which are guanine crystals and guarine crystals in some cases, but they are basic building blocks of life that form crystals in the cells of fish, and they create prisms that scatter UV light and visible light. And that's what gives fish those little sparkles on their body that we think of as fish scale or iridescence. And between the two things, they scatter light, they scatter sound, they dampen sound, and it's like a type of stealth or cloaking for them. Just like the noise canceling headphones, and also then confusing by spreading out the noise from, it really should be a big circle of waves going like this, but I can't draw it in 3D that well right now. Now, they also did a whole big research paper on what is a school. I don't know why they fund things like this sometimes. Somebody spent tens of thousands of dollars to research what constitutes a school. Well, in every species, it was between 3 and 5 fish. Most species, almost all, it's 3. And what happens, even in the dumbest fish, the littlest fish with the smallest brains that we think of as dumb, they, rice fish and danios, things like that we assume like, a cichlid's much smarter, or a goby or a blenny or something is going to be much smarter, or a cleaning race. We know those are really smart. They can recognize their own face in the mirror. If they have a red dot drawn on their face, they will wipe it off. I mean, talk about smart fish. But again, intelligence is all set by the parameters in which what parameters are important to you in nature, in your environment. It doesn't do a lot of good being able to realize self-consciousness if what you do all day is eat little, micro plankton and little bugs and insects, and you just need to know fight or flight, run this way, stay with your school. You don't need to be pondering existential crises, okay? That's just gonna like drag you down. It even drags humans down, right? So the other thing that was done, other than saying what is a school, is this fascinating thing where they watched a bunch of species. This was at University of Michigan, I believe. They watched a bunch of species of fish in slow-mo, and they saw that there were like 5 or 6 unique patterns, or they're not unique in the sense that each fish group picked a pattern, right? And it may be that all the fish up here, they're gonna do their left pectoral fin in a circular motion every 3 seconds, and back here it's every 4 seconds, and back here it's every 5 seconds, because they're using the draft and the void here to get pulled along. They have to work less hard. Also, when they do that, it helps with the sound thing, and it helps confuse and make it look like there is a logarithmically significant shape coming, like that starts dense and gets softer, or that starts small and gets bigger. Pretty interesting. And they found that, like danios versus tetras, they actually synchronize their fins differently, and they only do so when schooling. When you're shoaling, or when they're one-on-one or even 2 fish together, they do not act this way at all. But when they get together, they start doing this crazy stuff, and they become like the Borg from Star Trek, and like all syncing up. Now, just so happens that another paper came out, and this one I'll have to do a standalone episode on, but I want to tell you about it because we just went over this stuff. And that is, they came out with a paper, I believe 4 universities worked on it, but Columbus, they came up with the study looking at Mormyrids, specifically the elephant nose fish, the Peter's eye. And this is one that's in the hobby. It's one that I've kept, not very well, sorry. But the Mormyrid group of fish are all mildly electrical. For a long time, it wasn't known why. Even back to the Egyptians, they knew that they were electrical, that they had some sort of like tingly feeling if you had enough of them in a pond and you put your feet in it. And they were also forbidden to be killed in ancient Egypt. There was a death sentence if you killed them. They literally have found no bones of Mormyrids, nor otoliths, because sometimes that's all that's left after like 5,000 years. No little bone in their ear left in any of the food scrap piles that have been buried all over Egypt. Now, whenever they built a big thing like the pyramids or the Sphinx or whatever, there would be literally tens of thousands of workers working on it. And that makes a lot of poo and a lot of food waste and a lot of broken tools. And that all gets thrown away nearby, usually, and dug in a big hole and thrown away. Well, lucky for us, we then find that and we can pick through it and learn things from it. And what we see is that from the species we know in the Nile now, there is an indication that the Nile was probably a little bit cooler, actually, right in the heart of like Luxor and central to the upper Nile. But the current day Nile up by where the pyramids are, that's probably about the same as far as it was wetter, but the temperature is about the same. So the fish are probably about the same there species wise. But there's something like 68 species of fish that are in the river at a given time along the main Nile. And they're all found, other than pufferfish, which maybe it's because they're prickly, I don't know, and Mormyrids, which had the taboo by the pharaohs for about 1,400 years. You couldn't eat them. And we do not see a single bone or otolith or anything in those scrap heaps and trash areas from that time. Now, as an archaeologist, I find this like fascinating. I want to know like what did the Egyptians know about Mormyrids that was so special? And back then, we probably had a lot of time to sit and watch fish, from the bank of a river. We know that they had fountains and ponds, which they kept them in. We know that the pharaohs had exclusive access to them and that they kept melanistic and albino um, elephant nose fish individuals and held them as like deities essentially. Like they brought them, offerings of gold and things like that. There are these big frescoes, for lack of a better term. It's before frescoes exactly were designed in the Roman sense, but paintings, big murals of the pharaoh sitting in a throne of gold, and his feet are in water that's about 6 inches deep, and it's filled with elephant nose fish. So something was going on ritualistically there, and it just seems odd that they're the one group of fish there that are electrically active. Just kind of interesting. We don't know what it means. But the yeah, fish created the pyramids 100%. That's what you should take away from this. The fish were gods that created the pyramids. It wasn't the aliens. Surf City Cichlids, what's up? So, this new research just came out, and we just talked about how schools are really effective for both cloaking or disguising and stealth, covering the tracks of individual fish so that they look like one big fish, two, confusing if they do get attacked, and three, it's just the whole which one are you going to pick if you're a predator? Where are you going to go? And the Egyptian elephant nose fish, or the Nile Peter's eye elephant nose fish, they've got this massive brain. Their brain for fish is big, but not just for fish. Compared to any creature, including humans, their body mass to the mass of their brain is the biggest in the animal kingdom by far. And they also then have a neurological system that's bonkers huge. They've got a giant organ that goes all down their weird little tail. And then they've got another organ at the end of their tail. And then they've got some more sensory stuff on their lateral line and along their swim bladder that basically uses their swim bladder to amplify sound because sound travels differently in air. So they can interpret how sound would be traveling through air in their swim bladder, and then lower frequency noises that travel really well underwater, they can hear that through their inner ear and which has water in it. So they can basically hear through water and through air while underwater, which is pretty cool. And so what this new research found out that blew my mind, that really impressed me, and it changes the game for animals and humans in general, is they found that one fish in muddy water in a tank, big old tank, trying to make it real similar to nature. They hid blackworms down in the substrate. And they got them eating blackworms and used to blackworms. And these fish put out little signals. They put out at least 38 unique sound signals, and probably about the same electrical signals that wavelength-wise we can say, oh, that's different than the last little noise or surge they put out. And we know that they have signals to each other, like there is one that any one of the fish can say, beep, beep, and all of a sudden, all the fish stop talking for 100 yards in every direction, and it's dead silent, and they wait for that fish up to 30 seconds to say something else in an electrical signal. And so it's usually like run, predator, like they can see that when there's a big stress response in the fish, the cortisol levels go up. That's when they're getting these, everybody shut up, predator, run, or everybody shut up, something fell in the water that's delicious, let's go get it. And we don't know to what degree it's a one-to-one linguistic structured thing. That's putting human terms on it too much, anthropomorphizing them. But we do know now that not only can they talk, not only do they have this vocabulary of clicking and words and sounds and electrical impulses, they also are able to pick up from the left, from the right, and from their tail. It's very important in science to be able to triangulate things. And they are triangulating the other fish around them, up to dozens of other mormyrids, all making little noises and sending out they have a signal like dolphins that they send out very frequently to map where they are if they're in murky water. And then if it's clear water, they're pretty quiet. So the scientists are pretty sure that that signal is saying, ooh, let's just map this like a bat, or like like dolphins do too. But the other signals they've been confused about. And it turns out that one, they are taking the signals that are being, so the fish hears signals of the fish all around it. It is then using all those signals and its own triangulation system, its own neurology, and those specialized organs to then mentally map. How do they know this? Well, they took the same protein that's in glowfish and they put it in the cortex, the neural cortex of the brain and the amygdala of the brain. And they saw anything that caused a crazy spike in cortisol levels and adrenaline levels. So, fear essentially, or mating. That was seen and met with a specific number of noises or electrical impulses that were fairly predictable. And so there is most likely now proof that they are, yes, thinking about it in their brain, saying danger, that the other fish around are saying, hey, Bob over there said danger, and that they are mapping it. This is another interesting thing. Another team worked on the same project. They mapped the visual cortex of the animal. And so they can tell us that the same part of the brain that sees visually, even when they, I mean, I hate to say it, but they did it in the study, take the eyes out of the fish and there's nothing to see, or if they're in silty water, which is the case most of the study, they still are seeing in their visual cortex because they've got their lateral line and their electrical sensors. So this means they're seeing some sort of crazy world that's in 3D that can track motion and water currents and that can track danger and that can use a network of other fishes' sound and echolocation or electromagnetic location and map it themselves. And so they find that these fish are 40 to 60% better at avoiding predators when they have a network of three or four other fish, three or four more, than when they're alone. And I mean, it's not that surprising that they do better in a group than alone, but they don't school quite the same. You know, they shoal, they hang out together. And so they're mapping together like this big surveying crew that's spread out and sharing that info, whether it's advertent or inadvertent. And they know that those sounds that come from their species are the ones to pay attention to. Now, in a river that's full of lots of sounds in that range, current, water, rocks tumbling, fish, motorboats, all sorts of things. And now there's even electromagnetic things going on in the water, you know? Like, what are the implications, right? So I just thought this was really cool, really exciting news. Maybe I'll do a standalone episode on it with, you know, the graphics and the paper excerpts highlighted. But I thought it was too cool not to discuss. I think we covered a lot of territory tonight, and I'm about to sign off. But I really do appreciate you guys, and I couldn't do this channel without you viewers, you members, you beautiful people, you. And, you know, you can have different opinions than me. You can say whatever you want to me, but as we saw earlier tonight, let's keep it supportive and positive of everyone in the community. If you don't like a group of people or you don't like whatever, keep it to yourself. You can have those views, but just keep it to yourself. I can handle it, but I don't dare subject someone else who came here to learn or to feel the support of the community to feel excluded, even if it's not someone saying, hey, you're this. When everyone's making a joke about something and that person happens to identify with that or something, that's where it's not cool. That's where it needs to be cut off. And I am very anti-censorship for the most part. But in this context, we're here to learn. It's my channel. I get to censor. And I thank mods so much for helping out with that, especially as we're going into the, like, trying the vertical thing. So we'll see how the vertical thing went. But thank you guys. I hope you have a wonderful night. Hug the ones you love the ones you hug. Take care of your fish, your plants, and of course, take care of yourself, or you won't be able to take care of any of that. Much love from my wife, Laura, and I will see you guys hopefully Friday, and hopefully with a video sometime later in the week. Much love, guys. Bye.